Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Now, this video is going to piss a lot of people off. It's going to frustrate you. It's going to upset you. It's going to make you, dwell on the question of, is our government trying to kill us with the food? I mean, the thing is, most people, when they walk into a supermarket, they got this conception that, just because the food is in the market, just because the store is allowed to sell certain foods, that the food is safe, for human consumption. It's safe to eat. It's safe for us to buy. When we pick up a package or, a bottle and we read the label, we expect that if it says, farm fresh or free range or, organic, that's exactly what it is. And that's not always the case, as you will see in this video. Now, the problem is this, that not all of us is a nutritionist. We're not all, chemists. We can't, look at these foods and read the label and know, is it safe for human consumption? Is it safe for my body? Is it safe to eat? What are these chemicals? How is it going to affect me? We don't understand these things. But the corporations and companies that make these foods and make these drinks, they know exactly what the stuff is. They know if it's good for you or not, and they still put it out as being safe for human consumption when some of these foods and some of these drinks are banned in other countries because they are deemed unsafe for human consumption. Now, the thing is, no matter how you slice it, we gotta eat. We love food. People, as long as it's not going to kill me today, I'll run it off, or, I'll burn the calories, or it'll be fine. And we go out and we shop and we get what satisfies us, what makes us happy. And food makes people happy. And this is why, it's messed up that the stuff that they put in food to, make a buck, to destroy our health so they can make a buck, so they can make money. And, by the end of this video, a lot of your favorite foods, a lot of things that you like to eat, you probably won't eat ever again. Now, in 1962, the government adopted Codex Alimentarius. Now, some of you have heard of this. Now, Codex Alimentarius is basically guidelines, it's standards for, basically laws for food consumption. It basically tells us what food we can't eat, can and cannot eat. Now, their goal was to, by 2009, was to have Codex Alimentarius the standard for food consumption around the world. Now, think how far ahead they planned. We talk about from 1962, they was already planning for 2009 for this to be the standard for food consumption around the world. Now, what Codex Alimentarius has basically done was the UN, the World Health Organization, and the Food and Agriculture Organization, they basically set into motion Codex Alimentarius. And what it has basically done was say that, the foods that we eat, all of the nutrients, all of the protein, all the good stuff we have been getting from foods, from natural foods for thousands of years, is basically toxic. So they said all of the good nutrients, all of the good nutrition and protein and, all of the good things that we get from natural food, listen to what I'm saying, natural food is toxic and unfit for human consumption. So they said the food we've been eating for years, thousands of years, is not good for us. And in 1994, the World Trade Organization adopted Codex Alimentarius, and all of the countries that's involved in the World Trade Organization basically said, we adopted as well, and they took it in. And now you have these people telling us that good food is bad for us. So we got to do something about the good food. So this is basically, what Codex Alimentarius did. Take a look.
So what we're talking about is waking up one morning and being very surprised to find that high-potency, therapeutically effective, clinically significant nutrients are now illegal in the way that heroin is illegal. Not available with a prescription, illegal. If these nutrients have any impact on the human body, they are illegal. That's just the vitamin and mineral guideline. Let's talk about milk. We have recombinant bovine growth hormone, and now we can choose milk with it or milk without it, butter with it, butter without it, right? Not under Codex, because under Codex, every dairy cow on the planet must be treated with Monsanto's recombinant bovine growth hormone. Furthermore, under Codex, every animal used for food on the planet, whether it has fins, feet, or feathers, every animal on the planet must be treated with subclinical antibiotics. Must be treated with subclinical antibiotics and must be treated with exogenous growth hormones for the dangerous industrial chemicals that you can have in your food. And the limits are incredibly high. Go to Codex Alimentarius, do a Google search, and look, there are drop-down menus at the top of the official Codex page. Look at the toxins and the veterinary chemicals and the levels that are set. They are terrifying to me. Terrifying. The names of the chemicals that are permitted and the amounts of the chemicals that are permitted are terrifying to me. Why am I terrified? Well, perhaps I'm just a cowardly person. It's possible. Think about this. In 2001, 176 countries, including the United States, got together and they said there are 12 really bad organic chemicals. They're called POPs, persistent organic pollutants. There are a lot of them, but there are 12 that are so bad that nobody could disagree that those 12 POPs had to be banned worldwide. 9 of the 12 worst organic chemicals known are pesticides, not surprisingly. Codex has different ideas. Codex has brought back 7 of the 9 forbidden POPs that 176 countries banned worldwide. Dieldrin, aldrin, hexachlorobenzene. And the food that is imported from other countries that contains these substances cannot be stopped at our borders, because otherwise it would be, God forbid, a trade violation. Codex has promulgated well over 4,000 guidelines, standards, and regulations on everything which can legally be put into your mouth, with the exception of pharmaceuticals. They are not part of Codex. Important. The Alimentarius Commission is administered by the World Health Organization, WHO, and the FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization. They fund Codex and they run it at the request of the UN. So they're mommy and daddy to Codex Alimentarius. Here's the kicker. You ready for this one? If 2 countries go into the World Trade Organization dispute resolution process, and one of them is Codex compliant, and one of them is not Codex compliant, the one that is Codex compliant automatically wins regardless of the merit of the case. People are using Codex compliance as a weapon in a much bigger economic battle. He who controls food controls the world. You may not know that although it is said that Codex guidelines, regulations, and standards which have been ratified are voluntary, they are not voluntary. That is known as a lie. They are mandatory, but they are not fully mandatory until December 31st, 2009. They're sort of a little bit mandatory now, and they're totally mandatory then. Let's talk about the vitamin and mineral guideline first. In 1994, here in the United States, DSHEA, the Dietary Supplements, Health and Education Act, was passed, which classifies nutrients and herbs as foods. As foods, you can set no upper limit on them. You cannot set an upper limit on lettuce, lamb, or rutabagas, and similarly, you cannot set an upper limit on vitamin C, echinacea, ginkgo biloba, vitamin D. And access to nutrients is freely given to us. We are allowed to have any nutrients we want because, and this is a very important point, under common law, anything not forbidden is permitted. Codex, on the other hand, is a Napoleonic Code law system. Under Napoleonic Code, anything not permitted is forbidden. In 1994, Codex, with no notice here in this country whatsoever, declared nutrients, put on your intellectual seatbelts, declared nutrients to be toxins. They're poisons. Dangerous industrial poisons. As poisons, we have to be protected from them. Nutrients under Codex not only are limited to those nutrients on the positive list, and we anticipate there will be 18 of them, and they do not include CoQ10, glucosamine, chondroitin sulfate. They do include fluoride, which, to my knowledge as a physician, has absolutely no biological benefit whatsoever. But it does make people complacent. Fluoride was first used in the Gulag because it was discovered that prisoners who were fed fluoridated water were complacent and you could do anything you wanted to them. They were easy to manage. The more voices that say, this is what I want and you work for me, Mr. and Mrs. Bureaucrat and Mr. and Mrs. Congressman, Mr. and Mrs. Senator, the more voices, the more weight. Now, Congress uses a multiplier of 13,000 to 1. Every email, fax, phone call, letter. Don't write letters. They get decontaminated. They never get to Congress. Every email, fax, and phone call counts as 13,000 constituent opinions. They figure that if you write a letter or send an email, there are 12,999 lazy lunks who can't bother to get to the computer terminal to do the same thing, but they feel the way you do. Interesting. That's power, my friends. That's power. That's 13,000 to 1. So you have to remember that Codex does not serve consumer well-being, does not serve health. It serves what I call the 5 bigs. Big Pharma, Big Chema, Big Biotechna, Big Agribiz, and Big Medica. Little you and little me are not served by Codex in the least.
So, from 1962 to 2009, while all that time was passing, while most of us was being born and growing up and thinking that, everything is fine and the government is cool, these people was coming up with laws, coming up with regulations and rules to take away good, clean, healthy, natural foods and replace it with dangerous foods with toxins and all kinds of chemicals. Now, think about what's being said here. Think about what they're basically saying. They're saying they're going to take away all the food that is good for you, the food that'll help you grow and fight off disease and everything that's good for you. They're going to take it away from you and give you food that's bad for you, food that is known to cause diseases, food that is known to cause cancer, and food that is known to kill you. And nobody's saying nothing. Nobody is saying nothing because they can't believe it. They can't fathom that the government would do such a thing because, they got to eat too. Congressmen and those senators, they got to go to the market. They got to feed their family. But these politicians would rather take a check from a lobbyist, take a bribe or what have you, than to stand up for what's right for the people. So 2009 came and went, and of course this is now the standard for food, around the world. Some countries, opt out of it. Obviously, they don't deal with a lot of this stuff that you're going to be seeing in this video. But here in America, we are basically subject to unhealthy foods because after thousands of years of people living with no kind of chemicals and no kind of anything, eating natural, good, wholesome foods, these people said that, good is bad, it's toxic, it's going to kill you. And they replaced it with food that we know is bad, that we know is toxic, and we know is killing people. There have been many scientists, many independent scientists, many independent nutritionists and chemists who have done studies on this food, and they have all come up with the same conclusion that, these foods will kill you, they are not safe, they are toxic, they will cause problems with your health, they will cause obesity, they will cause heart problems, and we just sit back and we accept it. Now, to go along with their plan in 2009, in 2010, Senate Bill S510 was presented. Now, this bill is basically saying that they're going to make it illegal for you to grow, share, trade, and sell homegrown foods. So you can't grow your own food, you can't give it away, you can't sell it. It's going to be illegal according to this bill. Now, understand this. I can go to the pharmacy, right? I can buy a bottle of Tylenol PM, and I can walk outside and I can give it to whoever walking by, knowing that if they take that whole entire bottle of pills, it's going to kill them. But there is no law against that. There's no bill passed for me to give a bottle of pills that's dangerous, that we know is going to kill somebody if they take the whole bottle. There's no law for that. Cigarettes, we all know, highly dangerous. I can walk into a store, I can buy a whole carton of cigarettes. I can then go outside and give them to somebody, the whole carton, and say, here, smoke all these. We know they're not going to smoke them all at once, but we know that those cigarettes could kill them. It could cause lung cancer. It could cost somebody their life, but there is no law against that. But if I want to grow some vegetables and I want to go outside and feed a starving family or a homeless man, that's illegal, according to this bill. Now, your congressman in the House of Representatives basically took a look at this whole thing and said, you know what, this is ludicrous, this is crazy, we can't pass this bill, and it didn't pass. But the Senate basically said, fuck y'all, the lobbyists paid us our money, so we're going to pass this whole law. And on January 4th, 2011, Obama signed into law what is called the Food Modernization Act. And basically, it takes away the power from the organic farmer, the person who, grows natural foods and does food the right way. It takes away the power from them and basically puts it in the hand of the government, and they decide what is safe and, what we can and cannot eat in this country. So, of course, this is crazy. So this is just more proof that, corporations control government, that lobbyists influence senators, not the politics. So corporations like Monsanto and DuPont get to make GMOs and all kinds of chemicals to spray on your food. Now, GMOs, genetically modified organisms, is basically when they take a species and they take a gene from a species and they force it into another species. Now they do this so that, the plants will basically survive all of the chemicals and, all of the pesticides they're going to have to spray on it. They do it with animals so that the animals will survive all of the antibiotics, all of the drugs they're going to pump into it. So when you see these farms, and these farms are full of, just cows and chickens, and they are packed in, to one area, this breeds disease and bacteria. The animals start getting sick, they get depressed, and they gotta, start pumping them with these drugs, to keep them going. And, after a while, they can only take but so much. So eventually, they have to put the animal down, and, all those chemicals ends up in your food, ends up in your vegetables, ends up in your meat. So then they have to spray it with more chemicals, so, it'll survive the trip. It'll survive the trip from the factory or from the slaughterhouse to the processing plant, from the processing plant to the supermarket. And, they put an expiration date on it. And, once you take it home, you think that you're getting fresh food or fresh milk, and you have no idea that it contains all these chemicals, beforehand, and then even more chemicals so it can have a longer shelf life.